Because right now it's difficult for a clinician, a doctor, to know who needs prostate surgery, who needs a biopsy, and how best to treat them. Well, our technology lends itself very well to that. And through a very simple blood test, we believe that we'll be able to show clinicians specifically who needs exactly what kind of treatment and whether they're likely to respond to that treatment.
Cancer is the second leading cause of death for seniors. Breakthrough developments are rapidly taking shape, and one company in particular has secured patented technologies that could save millions of lives. This is an early stage investment opportunity that could yield fortunes, not just for investors, but for families all across the world looking for precise treatment technology. Learn more about this opportunity at crushthestreet.com/3D2017.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. And today, here at Crush the Street, our goal is to help people prosper and thrive. And we're going to have a discussion today with someone very well connected in the medical space. And it's going to be a follow-up interview to what we're calling our number one pick, our stock pick, number one stock pick in the medical space for 2017. And the trend for medical technologies, as we continue to see more and more baby boomers retire and enter their elderly years, is here to stay. And 3D Signatures is an early stage company honing in on advancing the technology precisely to diagnose and treat cancers and mental illnesses. Huge implications for patients, doctors, insurance companies, even pharmaceuticals. And I'm here today with the CEO, Jason Flowerday of 3D Signatures, and he's got an extensive life science and leadership experience, including over a decade of working for two of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies, one of them being Johnson & Johnson, and he is the CEO of 3D Signatures. Lots of exciting things to talk about. Jason, thanks for coming on the show with me today.
Ken, much appreciated. Thanks for the opportunity. Looking forward to hopefully bringing a little bit of light to what it is we're doing at 3D Signatures.
Well, let's start off with the second biggest killer here in the U.S. It's a pretty big deal, cancer. And how concerned, or why did you guys decide to hone in on cancer? How big of a deal is this?
Well, Ken, as you just mentioned, an enormous unmet medical need in terms of cancer and the impact it has on folks folks I know, and people around the world. And the opportunity for 3D Signatures in looking at a wide array of cancers was really to help patients ultimately live longer and live with a more targeted approach to their care, so they could benefit from the care that their doctors, their clinicians, their nurses want to bring to them. And so our technology helps do that, and that's the goal that we're pursuing. And I'm happy to tell you more about it.
Well, I mean, the other side of the equation, I know mental illness is a big focus for you guys as well, and I want to get into some of the specific cancers and mental illnesses that you guys cover here, but specifically, just to start off with the mental illness, man, I was talking to my barber just the other day, and he was telling me how when you get older, the two things you want to focus on are your physical health and your mental health. It's not your looks anymore, and mental health is not something that people pay attention to very much. But how big is mental illness? We talked about cancer being the second biggest killer. How important is mental illness, and how big of an issue is it here in the Western world?
Well, Ken, it's enormous, and in particular, where our focus is in terms of mental illness is Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's affects a growing proportion of people, and earlier and earlier is having devastating effects on the quality of people's lives and how that affects their families and how long they live. And so we feel that our technology holds a lot of promise around potentially identifying patients with mental illness, in particular Alzheimer's disease or mild cognitive impairment, early on in life, and hopefully the therapies and the treatment options will advance to the point of being able to help patients live more normal lives and less affected by diseases like Alzheimer's.
And one of the as far as going back to cancers here, one of the markets you're targeting here is prostate cancer. And I mean, if you want to give us a little background as to, what is going on with prostate cancer and how you guys are honing in on it and what you have to offer with this specific illness that so many are dealing with.
Yeah, I think we probably all know folks that are affected by prostate cancer, and if not directly, indirectly through others. And it's an enormous disease, particularly in the U.S., but around the world. The disease is fairly well diagnosed, Ken, in that, most physicians and most patients who are at risk of prostate cancer get screened, and they get flagged for it. A simple test that's available today, a PSA test. But what 3D Signatures is aiming to do is to really bring better tools and better information to patients and to clinicians that isn't currently available to, because right now it's difficult for a clinician, a doctor, to know who needs prostate surgery, who needs a biopsy, and how best to treat them. Well, our technology lends itself very well to that, and through a very simple blood test, we believe that we'll be able to show clinicians specifically who needs exactly what kind of treatment and whether they're likely to respond to that treatment. And the hope is that we'll be able to spare tons and tons of men from unnecessary biopsies, which have a risk of infection, and ultimately make sure that the appropriate patients are getting surgery and more advanced treatment. But those patients who don't need treatment, well, they can afford to wait, because prostate cancer really, it isn't a disease that kills everybody. Most men live fine with prostate cancer, and we can show that with our test, with our biomarker, which patients don't need surgery, which patients don't need more intervention. And I think that's the personalization of medicine that 3D Signatures is focused on.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and especially, being able to precisely diagnose, and this one-size-fits-all that, I guess is out there. I mean, obviously, you're much more familiar with this than I am. Another type of cancer that you guys are honing in on here is Hodgkin's lymphoma. I think that's something a lot more people may not be as familiar with. If you would, give us a little background on this, and, what's your approach for tackling on this specific illness?
Hodgkin's lymphoma is a lesser known but very devastating cancer, and is diagnosed generally at about 39 years of age. But when you're diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, the 5-year survival is about 86% of people won't live beyond 5 years, and therefore there's a tremendous unmet need here that 3D Signatures is able to address. The disease affects about 10 or 11,000 people in North America each year, Ken. But what our technology will allow a patient, and again, a clinician that's looking after these patients, to do is really understand which of the standard chemotherapy regimens, so the traditional therapies that are used in this disease, which ones will work, and ultimately, which ones probably won't work. And so that the patient doesn't have to go through several courses of chemotherapy and all the side effects and being in and out of a hospital. And we'll be able to identify which patients should receive a second line, a more targeted therapy that's more effective against the disease. And we do that in the same way that our technology works across every disease. We're able to look at the structure of a patient's DNA. And the DNA is what determines our height and our color of our hair and the color of our skin. But when you look really carefully at that structure of DNA in 3 dimensions, it tells us a lot about a patient's disease and how aggressive it is, and whether they're likely to respond to one therapy or another. And that's how we help patients with Hodgkin's lymphoma and all the other cancers that we look at, Ken.
Jason, how early in the game, is 3D Signatures, and specifically, I mean, for people interested in, partnering up with you guys, where is the company now, and, where do you guys expect to be, a year, 2, 3 years down the line?
Well, 3D signatures is really not as early as some people think. The company has benefited from 20 years of research and development, Ken. And to date, there's been about $30 million invested into the company, developing the technology today, which allows us to look at cancers. And as I explained, identify who will respond to one therapy or another. But in terms of some of the important milestones and where we're heading over the next year or two, there are a number. There are a number of clinical trials that will help our products get closer to approval. And these are assays that we talked about for prostate cancer, for Hodgkin's lymphoma, and other cancers like multiple myeloma, lung cancer. All of these cancers represent a huge opportunity. And we're talking with clinical lab partners around the world now to help us bring these products to patients over the next few years. The other important focus of our business strategy is developing collaborations with pharmaceutical companies. You mentioned that I spent a number of years working in life sciences space, in particular for a couple of big pharmaceutical companies. Well, they need new tools as well, tools that will allow them to better understand which of the drugs they're developing is likely to be effective against new diseases like the cancers we've described today. And that's an important area where we're focusing, and we think that'll be a significant part of our business and of our revenue going forward. Collaborating with world-class pharmaceutical companies and then bringing our diagnostic assays, prognostic assays to market, and personalizing the management of these various cancers. So over the next couple of years, we'll continue to make significant inroads and generate revenues in those two channels that I just described.
And compared to other companies, I mean, are there other companies out there doing what you guys are doing? Or are you guys unique? Obviously, you got a lot of patented technology that you guys have. And where does this put you compared to everyone else out there?
It's really powerful in terms of how differentiated and unique 3D Signatures is, Ken. There's no other company that is leveraging the three-dimensional analysis of telomeres. That's a very specific region of the chromosome of the DNA that I described earlier. When you look at it in 3 dimensions and you combine it with a software program that we've developed that helps analyze the stability of the chromosomes, what you find is a very unique opportunity that 3D Signatures has honed in on and that nobody else is using. And so it distinguishes us from many other companies that are trying to advance the field of cancer, of medicine, and personalizing treatments. And so to the best of our knowledge, no one else is looking at three-dimensional telomere analysis with a software program really being the engine behind what it is we do. And so it's a powerful combination of opportunities here.
So, Jason, I want to ask you this question. Being on the inside and, the pharmaceutical industry, what do you anticipate people's experience in, let's say, 50, 100 years? I mean, do you see cancer as something that will come under control, and mental illnesses? I mean, are people going to be living well into their hundreds? Just any insight on what to expect with medical technologies as we go down the line here?
Well, Ken, I think we've seen such progress made across so many different diseases. I think if you look at something like AIDS and HIV, and the diagnosis of that disease years ago was almost a death sentence, and today the progress that has been made is allowing people to live, near normal lives. And so if you look at cancers and mental health disorders like Alzheimer's disease, my expectation is that with new therapies and targeted therapies, that will allow patients to be identified and treated much earlier with drugs that have fewer and fewer side effects. The benefit to patients and their families will be enormous. And, you talked about 50 years down the road. I think we'll see patients living much healthier, much longer lives because of the advances that are being made in the ability to diagnose these patients and treat patients much more effectively than we are today. So a really exciting field, and one that 3D Signatures is proud to be on the forefront and helping to shape those treatments and the personalization of medicine.
Hey, well, that's great. Everyone, that's Jason Flowerday, the CEO of 3D Signatures. Jason, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insight on this incredible technology, and I'm really anticipating where this will go and how things will unfold, and I'm expecting an incredible 2017. So, again, thanks for coming on the show with me today.
My pleasure, Ken. Thanks for your support, and we're looking forward to a great year ahead as well. All the best to you.